We all wanna be heard. We all want to be seen. We all wanna be valued as a part of the team. And when we're working together, we do it much better. Here's to the dream. Education is liberation, but application's the key. It's called social emotional learning. Tables is turning, we getting free. Bringing our whole selves to the journey.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone had a great start to their week. My name is Jamila Sams. I'm the founder of We Do It for the Culture. And before we get started, please tell us where you are hailing from in the chat. All right. Where are you representing? Let's just drop it in the chat. All right. Portland, BK, Kareem, ATL. All right. Long Beach, Olympia. Wow. Houston. Yes. All right. Long Island, Medford. Awesome. Awesome. So great that you all are able to join us this evening. Again, my name is Jamila Sams. I'm the founder of We Do It for the Culture, and this is SEL in action through science, technology, engineering, and math, otherwise known as STEM. And I'm going to be honest with you all this evening. Math and I had a complicated relationship. I love science, the curiosity, the discovery, but when the numbers showed up, as Mobb Deep would say, let's just say I turned into a shook one. Okay, I was a little terrified of math. And you know what? That's a lot like social emotional learning. Social emotional learning can feel abstract. It could feel like something that we talk about, but sometimes we struggle to give examples of how SEL shows up in content areas like math and science. And at We Do It for the Culture, we believe that SEL is a part of our humanity because problem solving doesn't always start with a formula. Sometimes it starts with a feeling. So maybe it's the frustration that drives us to find a better solution, or the curiosity that sparks an environmental issue, or even the empathy that makes us look at data through a different lens. When we teach math and science through a cultural lens, we help students connect with what they feel to what they think. And hip hop culture has always done that, using rhythm, sound, and innovation to turn patterns into expression and curiosity into creation. So today we are here to explore how SEL, math, and science intersect, not as separate subjects, but as ways to help students make meaning out of learning, take ownership, and see themselves as problem solvers and the creators that this world needs. And so today I'm grateful to be in community with two amazing educators and authors and just dynamic human beings. First up, we have Dr. Crystal Watson, who's an innovative, passionate educator and leader who always asks, what do the students think? Dr. Watson's work is centered around providing space and student voice and identity and development in order to experience high quality, deep, and personal mathematics. Aside from the newly published book, Pedagogies of Voice, Street Data, and the Path to Student Agency, she has developed and facilitated webinars, workshops, and other professional development. She has shared her experience and knowledge across multiple forums, including keynotes, local and national conferences, podcasts, and professional development sessions. Now a school leader, Dr. Watson continues to center student experiences in her work. So thank you so much, Dr. Watson, for joining us. And I am so glad to meet you again. We were hip hop ed buddies for so long, and great to now be working with you in this particular manner.
Yep, on my bucket list. This is on my bucket list.
Great. So next up, we have Dr. Lena Bakshi, and she is the founder of STEM for Real, a nonprofit dedicated to integrating STEM, computer science, and AI with justice-centered teaching and leadership. A former district administrator, county leader, and classroom teacher, she has also served as an adjunct professor at Berkeley and Claremont Graduate University. Dr. McLean sits on the National Science Teaching Association board and is the USA Today bestselling author of STEM for All: How to Connect, Create, and Cultivate STEM Education for All Learners. A sought-after international speaker, she leads global research and convenes the annual STEM for All Leadership Symposium to advance equity and access in education. So I am so excited for this conversation. I am going to turn it over to our MC, Kareem McQuilkin, who is our Master of Curriculum. So take it away, Kareem.
Yeah, thank you, Jamila. I appreciate you for passing the mic, and shout out to Mobb Deep. They just recently dropped the album too, right? So Jamila, quick tidbit. Jamila usually tests me because I rate myself a 3.5 out of 4 on the hip hop head scale, because anything before 99, I you might catch me slipping a little bit. A little bit, a little bit, Dr. Watson. I see your face. Not too much though, but you might. But anything after 99, I'm very confident. So I give myself a 3.5. But yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and jump in, but I want to share and just reiterate what Jamila shared. Many times schools think SEL is another thing to do, but our hearts and spirits know, and the research shows that SEL is the foundation of teaching, right? And Jamila often says that before we can teach content, we have to recognize that we are teaching human beings, right? So Dr. Watson, I'm gonna pose a question to you, and then I'm gonna pose the same question to you, Dr. Bakshi. I actually I knew about the work that you were doing, Dr. Watson, prior to Hip Hop Ed in 2024, but I got to hear you speak on a panel last year at the Hip Hop Ed conference, and you were dropping gems, right? So in honor of hip hop, right, what hip hop song would be the feature track of your My Life mixtape, and why? And we're asking this question because we know music, there's a lot of emotional connections to music, and we can learn a lot about each other based on the music that we like to listen to. So
Yeah, this question is dope. I wanted to say Rhapsody 1983 because that was my year that I was born. A lot that she says and that resonated, but I have to go to Count Me Out, Kendrick Lamar.
okay.
It was easy for me to choose that because mental health has always been the forefront for me. And usually because I put others before me, I haven't always loved myself like I love others. And so I love that reflective piece. I could not always find myself in school and in my family. So I had to make the decision to find myself in other places like music and books and activists and poets and things like that. And as I became an adult, into adulthood, I had to confront me. I had to do that self-reflection and understand that outside validation would not save me. It was in me. So yeah, definitely count me out.
Wow. Yeah, and thank you for sharing that, right? And the connection that I made to that is, as an educator, we're so used to giving so much of ourselves to others, right? But we have to learn over time, and I've learned over time how to do that in a healthy way, though, right? So
Yes.
we don't lose too much of ourselves. So yeah, thank you
Mm,
for sharing
yeah,
that.
you're welcome. I love that question.
Yes, and we're gonna make a playlist. We're gonna make a playlist. We got Mobb Deep, Kendrick Lamar. So Dr. Bakshi, what song are you gonna add to the playlist?
Well, I'm looking at all of my list of Kendrick Lamar songs right now. I'm like, so I'll pause and bring him up later, although he is one of my favorite rappers, and I'm gonna go with Cardi B's Down 9 Times and I'll Get Up 10.
Yeah.
And I at first I wrote, either All Right or Humble by Kendrick Lamar, but I also feel like if we're speaking to my life and the soundtrack of especially the work that we're doing, especially during times when the work is feeling so much pushback, it feels like I'm down 9 times, but I get up 10. Like we just got to keep getting up, keep being resilient. And so I really resonate with those words.
Nice. Yeah, and that's so appropriate, right, for the times, right?
Mhm.
And we need each other. That's why we're even here in community right now on this webinar, right? It's because when we get knocked down, sometimes we need each other
Mhm.
to help each other get back up and stay motivated and inspired. So yeah, I just want to thank y'all again for being here, and everybody in the chat, everybody who's here as a guest. Remember, you could drop questions in the chat at any time because this is a community conversation. All right. So I'm gonna come back to you, Dr. Watson. Can you please share with the audience what inspired you to become a math teacher and what you do now in the field of education?
Yeah. Well, first, real talk, I was never inspired to be any type of math teacher. So like Jamila, I had a really terrible relationship with math, but I was in a corporate setting, just clocking in and clocking out with no purpose at all, right? And so I made the decision to become a teacher after 12 years in corporate. And as I was interviewing, I was told math is where I was needed. And so I was like, what? I want to teach anything but math. Why would you bring that to me? I wanted science, social studies, English, and then math, right? Science was my first. But fearful but faithful, I jumped in and took the challenge, and I'm really glad that I did. I ended up falling in love with teaching math. I still don't love math all like that, right? But I fell in love with teaching math because I saw the humanity in my children through my own struggles. So, that was my teaching experience. Becoming a principal was also not in my original plan either. I really loved the classroom. I wanted to stay in the classroom. I still love the classroom. I applied for a fellowship where I got to go to Columbia Teachers College for free for my second master's and my principal licensure. And as a child of a mother with a seventh grade education, I was like, how do I pass that over? You know what I mean? Like, I have to go. So I went, and it was an opportunity that I couldn't pass up. So I spent some time as a math coach after I came back, and then moved into administration. And again, definitely divinely ordered because it feels so natural to me now. And I like truly love it. I feel like I get to create different experiences for young people, for my families, for my community, for my teachers. I get told a lot like, you're different. You're not like such and such. And I'm not trying to compare myself to other people. I just do what feels good to me and what feels right. So I get to use what I've learned and continue to learn in order to help young people access opportunities that they may not have even been privy to before. Not that they don't have their own power, they don't have their voice, because they do. They have power. I don't have to empower them. They have that. I don't have to give them a voice. They have that. So just making sure that there are opportunities for them to use those things to be able to create opportunities and recognize opportunities for themselves.
Yeah, yeah. That is so much, so many gems dropped right there, right? And later on in the conversation, I'm going to make a connection to to what you said about the students, right? They already have a voice, but are we
And do.
creating a space for their voices to exist and be amplified, and for us to actually take action, right, on the things that we're learning from them? So yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Y'all got so many great things. It's like I gotta remember to slow myself down, right? Because there's so much more I want to know, and we're gonna get there, chat. All right, we're gonna get there in this conversation.
Yeah.
Dr. Bakshi, I'm gonna turn it over to you. So, can you please share with the audience what inspired you to become an educator and what you do now in the field of education?
Yeah, definitely. I have to say I was born a math nerd. I came out of the womb loving math. I thought it was the coolest thing. I thought it was a game. I just saw how much my grandfather loved teaching me math, and I was like, this is so fun. Like, I get to play with my grandfather while all my other cousins would run away from him when he would try to teach them math. I'm like, I don't get it. I thought we're playing games. So I've always had that relationship. And coming back, I remember there was a moment where they were looking for teachers. And I said, maybe I'll try teaching, see what happens. And I come into this world of people that hate math. And I'm like, what? And it was interesting where I'm like, oh, so this is a moment where I can share the love that I have for math with a whole bunch of people. And that was not fun. I'll tell you that. They looked at me like I was the Antichrist. And I said, wow, there is so much undoing emotionally, like the emotional trauma that comes with people that have labeled themselves not a math person, that have told themselves this isn't for me, and then having to undo that. That for me became a challenge where I really wanted to do something about that. And then, very similar, to Dr. Watson, I'm so excited you ended up as an administrator. Even though we need good math and science teachers, we don't have administrators that rally and advocate for math and science, because so many of the admins come from language arts backgrounds and humanities backgrounds. So I'm so excited, to have that advocacy, especially in admin. And that's kind of when I always tell people, when I went to the dark side to administration, it was for that reason. I wanted to stake a claim for being a voice for science and for STEM, and for being able to do that.
Nice. Thank you so much for sharing that, right? And I could definitely relate to the math anxiety, right? There's a lot of anxiety around math, and yeah, and we're looking forward to during this conversation to learning more about how we can just help teachers and students deal with handling math anxiety, right, amongst many other things as well. And that connects to our the next question that I have, and this is for you, Dr. Watson, right? I've heard you say, I went, I went and I did some research too. I said, let me go listen to some past interviews that y'all did, in this podcast era that we in. I study some of the what I call the greats, like our own Noriega, one of my favorite podcasters. So my research, when I was doing my research, I heard you say no one walks into a room and says, I can't read, y'all, but everyone says I'm not a math person. But I say we're all math people. We just do it differently. Can you unpack what you mean by that?
Oh, yeah. So I say this in every keynote, every podcast, anybody that asks me, why math? It's such a dirty word for so many people. Like, even now, I'll be talking to kids, and I'm in classrooms every day. I do breakfast every morning with my kids, and I'll ask them what's going on. I sign every single report card. I have 500 kids in my building, and I sign personally every single report card, and I put notes on there because I want their families to know that it's important to me what they do in school. It's not just them and the teacher. It's important that they know what I'm seeing, right? And so I hear so many times when I'm asking my students, like, what's going on? What's going on with your grades? Tell me about math class. And they're like, oh. And I'm like, I see faces turn up on planes when I'm traveling, when I'm in a grocery store, when I'm in an Uber and they ask me what I'm in town for. And I'm like, a math conference. It's like their whole face and demeanor changes. And I hear, oh, I'm not a math person, or I'm not good at math, is usually what I'm met with, right? But given the state of our schools right now, literacy is so much more concerning, and yet not many admit to not being able to read or to comprehend, right? With math, I truly believe that it can be one experience, where educators can make space for multiple ways of learning and creativity that can change the trajectory for young people, because it really is about confidence. Every student is born able to do math. We're conditioned to think that we can't. And then on the contrary, it takes just one small experience to kill a young person's love for math. And it's usually through the erosion of their confidence, right? And because we insist on upholding white supremacy ideals, and I'm going to say that, like power structures, like emphasis on right and wrong answers instead, with little regard for thinking and growing to get the right answer, and so much more in schools. Our students stay stagnant, right? And they stay shriveled up in math class, right? And although math is really accessible to everyone, and we're born mathers, just as my girl Deborah said, she said, we're born mathers, but we're conditioned to believe that we, especially those most marginalized, are not worthy of being good at mathematics. White people own math education, but I got to tell us, they never owned math.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for naming that too, right? And because we know that when we look at the statistics, right, our Black and brown students are the ones who don't often have the opportunity. We know that they can achieve at the high rate, but they don't have the opportunity to be
That
amongst teachers and in spaces where teachers really and truly believe in their abilities. So yeah, thank you for breaking that down. And and I want to ask you a question in relation to math, right? So I know you shared earlier in the conversation when when your experience being a math teacher, was there, I mean, before, when you were a student, was there a math teacher who inspired you, that shaped the way that you may, or reshaped the way that you viewed math?
my freshman year of college, I tested into remedial math, even though I got all the way up through algebra 2. And I had B's and C's, so I wasn't like your A student, but I wasn't, I wasn't terrible either. But I got into remedial math, and my remedial math teacher, Dr. Joyce Couch, I will never forget her. I shout her out every time. I was in 082 or something like that, right? So you pay for the course, but you don't get any credit. So I'm in the course, and she's like, no, you know what you're doing. And she would never take, I don't know, for an answer. She'd be like, well, you're going to show me something because you know something. Black woman, tiny, always talking about her Weight Watchers and how her treat was her little croutons or whatever. I will just never forget. And at the end of remedial math, she said, nah, you ain't bad at this. You are actually good. And I think that you can actually teach some folks some things. So then I did her companion course. I was the course instructor for the companion course, to help students that were in remedial math just kind of make sense of what they were learning. So yeah, Dr. Joyce Couch every day.
Wow, that's powerful. So it wasn't until after your K to 12 experience.
Yep.
Okay. So Dr. Bakshi, I'm gonna share something that I heard you say when I was doing some research and just listening to you speak about your experience as a STEM. I mean, I know you're way more than that, but specifically your STEM education background and the book that you wrote, right? So you said STEM is, somebody said, so you were reading your book review. Let me give the context first, right?
Mhm.
You were reading some book reviews and you said, I'm going to start with not just the positive book reviews, but some of the negative ones as well, right? And then you started to read what someone wrote, right? And I'm going to read what that person wrote. And then I want to hear, what is your response to that type of commentary? All right. So this person wrote, STEM is upper level, higher thinking synthesis of ideas to create new things. This means that struggling learners will also struggle with the rigor of the content. You can't just let students run on a little bit of information that is easy to understand and build a successful project, right? How do you respond to that type of commentary?
Mad.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
angry. She's I mean, this person is
yeah.
very very lucky that it wasn't said to my face in person. I don't know how I would have reacted. So I'm glad I had the screen to scream at and, hear something like that. But I'm so happy that Dr. Watson brought up the sheer white supremacy that comes from mathematics education and how mathematics education has been used as a weapon against students through the form of prerequisites and whatnot. Like, you fail this, so you're going to fail it again and again and again. And oh, well, now you can't take chemistry and now you can't take physics because I've decided that I am the gate and I'm going to decide who gets to come in and who doesn't based on these arbitrary skills. So much of that is based on, again, using math as a weapon, as this gatekeeping way to decide who do I want to teach and who do I not want to teach. And it's so explicit. It's explicitly there. You can see how they're doing it. So when you come up with things like, let's detrack, let's think about, other ways, all of a sudden you get so much anger because it's like we found them out. We found out how they are exactly deciding who's getting access and who's not. And it's comments like this person who said it in the early reviews of the book. They said very clearly, very openly. Like there was no sugarcoating of the words or any sort of self-censoring. This person felt that it was 100% okay to say that if you struggle in one area, you're also going to struggle in STEM, and we can't let students, you know, come into and build a successful project. We can't have that based on the little information. And there's so much inherent power that this teacher has given, or this educator has given themselves, to say, I am the all omniscient one, and I'm going to decide who's going to be allowed to the rigor of this content and who isn't. And that type of thinking is so dangerous and so detrimental, and it's so open that people openly just say that. And that's the crux of why so many students are not getting access to STEM, and why there are so many inequities built on that thinking.
Yeah, wow. Wow. Right. And you know, when I think of STEM, I think of building things, right?
Hmm.
I look at my children, and my youngest is 4 years old, but from the before they even turn one, they're playing with blocks, they're building things, right? And there's such a brilliance that they acquire without I can't say I didn't teach them how to play with blocks, right? Their
Hmm.
imagination goes beyond mine. Like I have to at times retrain myself to get back to that divergent thinking avenue in my brain, right? And
Hmm.
you know, when our young people, they're born with that, right? So it sounds like there are people who they encounter along their education journey, and I know I have, and you all shared that as well, that limit, right, their ability to continue to develop those divergent thinking skills. So yeah, thank you for breaking that down. And you all named white supremacist ideologies, right? So I want to share something before I ask you the next question, Dr. Watson. So I used to my career existed in New York City for 12 years, right? And for 5 years I worked at the district level, and we worked with schools all across New York City. So we would do a lot of work related to culturally responsive teaching, and then we would figure out how can we develop systems across schools and districts for that work to spread, right? Then 3 years ago, I moved down to Atlanta, and I'm still in contact with a lot of people from my team. And like I said, they're in all 5 boroughs. And my friend, she said, Yo, Reem, you got to check out this book we're reading as a team. It's called Street Data, right? And I was like, Street Data, just the name itself, right? So I'm sharing that because I know your book is international, right? But I know from the time I moved, it was making waves in New York City, right? And I know they say if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere, right? So you recently co-authored Pedagogies of Voice, Street Data, and the Path to Student Agency. The book's purpose is to transform classrooms into liberatory spaces for student voice, belonging, and intellectual development. Belonging is a major component within SEL. Can you tell us what street data is and why this book is important?
Yeah, so Street Data is the first book. This is the sequel to Street Data based on chapter 5 of Street Data. Street Data transformed my practice as an educator. I did not know the original authors personally. So Shane Safir and Jamila Dugan, I didn't know either one of them personally. And the second book came on a whim with Shane one night, I guess, and she DM'd me and was like, would you be willing to work on this project? I don't know if it's going to be a book or not yet, but I want to know if you want to work on it. And I was like, are you talking to me? I'm looking around. I'm looking on DMs and Twitter. I know she's talking to me, but I'm looking around like, who's she talking to? I'm just an educator from Cincinnati doing my thing in my little bubble, right? So yes, the book is right now. It's needed right now. As Shane starts us off in chapter 1, she said something like, actually, I wrote it down. It says, let us begin by naming a painful truth. Learners disappear inside of our classrooms every single day into spirals of invisibility, self-doubt, fear, anxiety, and righteous anger. This book is a letter and an action plan for teachers and educators. That's really what it is. To help transform our learning spaces. We offer a bunch of ways to do this by centering cultural practices, intentionally calling to the center our most marginalized folks, right? And that includes educators. So we acknowledge that educators that are marginalized are experiencing oppression alongside students that are experiencing oppression. And we're requiring them to do the same exact work as those that are privileged in the space, right? So we do acknowledge that in there, but we offer all these ways, and we use real classroom teachers. So one of the big things that we did with this book was we started out with doing focus groups all around US and in Canada. And the focus groups asked a myriad of questions of the educators, but the one question that we asked them that really helped shape the project and the book was, what needs to be said right now to you as a teacher? If you pick up a book, what do you want it to say? And they gave us all of the material, and they were just like, I need this, this, or this. A lot of it was like, I need to be seen as an educator and not a glorified babysitter. I need to be seen as a whole human and not just in my teaching role, those types of things, right? So the book, it's important now, especially because like Dr. Bakshi said, she said that right now, like in our political context, our social context, there's people who believe they have the power to erase our stories, right, from books and censor classroom spaces. So I think it's really important through this book, we help educators see how you can help young people realize that the power is already in them. They don't need the book. They don't need the educator to lead them through it because they have the lived experience. They have stories. They witness and they witness. And it's there and cannot be taken, right? And that's part of SEL, right? Is to understand you have that self-awareness. You talk and you talk to your folks, you talk to your families, and you pass down stories. And that is getting stifled as well, right? Because we have the internet and all these other things now, and kids don't sit down at the dinner table like they used to and stuff like that, right? So as we continue to talk about mental health and social emotional health of our youth, we have to acknowledge that as a sense of identity and purpose erodes, so do both of us, right? Their social emotional and their mental health. And so belonging is central, and that is my role in education. That's what all my keynotes are about. It's about creating a sense of belonging in math through student voice and helping them self-actualize, right? So how do you fit into this world of mathematics, or how does the world of mathematics fit inside of you? Because really, you're the human. I see the humanity in you. So how does mathematics come from you? So like really becoming self and social aware through the exploration of self and others to understand those strengths and then perspectives of others. That's something that I'm working on really, really hard with my kids. I feel like it's gotten worse since COVID, that kids just do not know how to speak to each other. They don't know how to have critical conversations to understand others' perspectives, especially when they're not their own. So I'm really, really passionate about creating space and opportunity for students to unlearn, learn, and or relearn, right, in order to become responsible decision makers.
Oh yeah. I see how you weaved in all 5 SEL competencies when
You
you were
know,
dropping those gems. Yeah, I like the way you did that. I was listening close. Yeah, yeah. I love that, and it always amazes me every time so one of the things that we believe separates us from other SEL curriculums is when Jamila and I, when we work with schools and we visit schools, we don't just want to visit the classrooms and just speak to the teachers. We always ask for time to speak to the students as well. And when I ask teachers, how many of you ever take time just to ask students how they're experiencing your classroom? This has nothing to do with our curriculum. It has, right? How many of you do that? And then the amount of hands that goes up is, I say, probably like less than 20% usually, right? And I just hope that when more people learn about this book, read this book, that's something that becomes more common
yeah,
within school cultures, because the students are the ones who, like, the only way we're going to be able to meet their needs, especially like you mentioned post pandemic, is to speak to them, and not just speak to them, right? But actually use, because it's one thing to get the data, right? But then you got to actually take action on the data, right?
That
And I know that that's what, the book really breaks down. So yeah, thank you for being a part of that. And that's a great story as well, right? But they say if you stay ready, you don't got to get ready, right? So
that's right. I have an
yeah.
amazing teacher. I think he met y'all at a conference, Kyrie Burton. I know he met Jamila because he was like, oh yeah, I met, we do it for the culture. I was like, oh, Jamila, like what you mean? Like, he
Yeah.
was like, yeah, I want to pilot their SEL curriculum. I said, let's go.
Yeah.
When we doing it? Because he is such a hip hop ed type teacher. He gives me so much joy and he does so much SEL in his thing. So shout out to y'all for being different and not like, just picking up an SEL curriculum and walking with
Yeah, we appreciate that. And like I said, we bring it back to Cardi B, right? Right?
it.
We pick each other back up when we get knocked down. So,
Mhm.
just learning about your work keeps us going as well. All right, Dr. Bakshi. So I'm gonna come to you. I know you're an author as well, right? So you're the author of STEM for All: How to Connect, Create, and Cultivate STEM Education for All Learners. And this book covers a wealth of key topics surrounding the subject, including classroom culture, discourse, identity, and that word that we hear that keeps coming up, belonging, family, and community participation in justice-centered core learning. Can you tell us why this book is important and how STEM specifically intersects with belonging and justice-centered learning?
Absolutely. And I also want to tie in Phoenicia. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. I want to tie in the question in the chat too, which is how teachers can make math equitable for students when using a scripted or given curriculum. And so going back to the question that you just asked, if you read the book cover to cover, a lot of people that are really focused on Newton's laws and content, they're going to be a little disappointed when they find out that I don't mention the next generation science standards or any sort of content based, standards or Newton or whoever or whatever until chapter 5. So those first 4 chapters are all about everything that you just talked about. Having empathy interviews, conducting student interviews and getting to know your students and their family, doing a culture walk and community walk around your school and your campus. So many of the educators that work in a school, very rarely do they live in the same community. So there's that void already there of just not there's a disconnect of what's happening in our communities and where people are living, where people are working. So I encourage and I invite educators to take those steps to get to know the culture around the school, get to know the culture of their students, of their families, the identities that are brought in. And then that way, that's going to help you teach whatever standards and whatever content that you have, whether you're looking at LS 1-7 and photosynthesis. Now you'll be able to connect it to maybe you're looking at farming methods and you're in an agricultural community, or perhaps you are teaching a scripted curriculum like Eureka Math or something like that. But then you get to know all of the personalities and feelings and community structures around your school. You can tie in and bring those different phenomena into the classroom and connect it. So a lot of science, they already have pre-built in phenomena like we're going to study the Isle of Scott. Look, if I'm teaching in Oakland, my students are not going to care about the Isle of Scott. They are going to want to know, like, maybe Alameda Island or something like, that they can relate to or connect to. And so I think that administrators as well should be able to give their teachers the latitude to kind of allow for local context and local phenomena to bring that in, still sticking to the script if they're very strict on implementing the curriculum, but then also recognizing that the curriculum hasn't been written for us. curriculum writing teams lack a lot of diversity. So they're not very representative of the students that we serve. So this is where we as teachers and we as educators have to come in and bring in that cultural capital, that street data into what you're teaching, and then be able to teach that. So I hope that answers your question, especially with having a curriculum and being able to do that. Even my 5-year-old is excited.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I was like, wait.
Actually, speaking of, I do want to add a little tidbit. I'm
Yes.
a secondary teacher by trade.
Uh,
And so I was voluntold to that I was going to be doing the STEM club for my daughter's kindergarten class. Now that to me, if there's any elementary teachers in the room, that was mortifying to me because I teach secondary. So the fact that I was going to be in a room full of kindergarten teachers, you can say that yes, Halloween came early.
yeah.
And so long story short, I know it's pumpkin time. I got pumpkins. We cut them all up. We dissected them. And then I looked up a teacher or a professor that studies pumpkins. Apparently he's Dr. Ricardo Hernandez from North Carolina. He studies the largest pumpkins. And then I do a little story time. So I end with story time. It took me 5 minutes and Chat GPT to find the story. And long story long, after I shared that story with the students, one student said, Hernandez is my last name. And so being able to see that this young person was able to form a connection with this scientist that studies 2,000-pound pumpkins, that's what identity and culture mean to me, is being able to bring that in.
Wow. Wow. Thank you for that. Thank you. Yeah, and well, one, what's your daughter's name?
My daughter's name is Kaliana.
Kaliana. Hey, Kaliana. Yeah, I actually have a video from the pandemic when I was recording something. And my daughter came in and we just kept going because we were so deep into the video. So yeah, I completely get it. But yeah, I just love that story, right? Like somebody with your last name, somebody who looks like you, somebody who's from where you're from could really just shift. And I believe as Dr. Watson, you said one moment, right? One experience could either make you love something or make you hate it or dislike it a whole lot, right? Just one experience. So it sounds like that experience was one that was transformational for that young student. So yes, yes. And you mentioned something, and it's the hot topic portion of the conversation. I mean, all of these topics are important, right? But there's some topics that are so hot, we got to find a way to leverage that to get the masses to pay more attention, right? So you mentioned chat, right? GPT, right? So I'm gonna come around to you, Dr. Watson, and I want to know what impact will AI have on the future of education and math, and what role might SEL play in all of that?
I think SEL is at the core of that, honestly. I think that SEL should come before AI use. But of course, the world doesn't work that way, because we would be remiss to not talk about the harms that AI is doing to communities that are already marginalized. Even just the cooling centers, they're using so much energy, and they're emitting things into the environment. And guess whose environment they're emitting things into? Is definitely not. It's the same environments. We could go back all the way to Radium Girls or whatever, right? It's always in the poor communities, the Black communities, the marginalized communities. So that's the part of AI that really digs at me. The potential for AI to be a problem-solving tool is amazing to me. But I think that if you do not teach kids and allow them to learn how to be problem solvers first, we're going to have robots. I mean, I'm already seeing it in a lot of my spaces. And with my own kid, my son is 14. He's a freshman in school right now. And he is 2 years above in math. So he's in algebra 2 as a freshman. And you know, there's times where he's like, well, I can just chat GPT this, and you can, and that's the problem with your teachers, is that they shouldn't be giving you algorithm all the time. There should be these deep thinking. Back to Dr. Bakshi, she was talking about making it real and not being so scripted. Having a cultural connection, rooting it to your community, right? So having something that is real. And I'm not talking about real world. Oh, Crystal had 14 pumpkins and Lena had 2. No, we're not just putting names into things, right? We're actually integrating into the community. I did a project with my 7th and 8th graders, and I'm a middle school love. I love middle school, but I'm at an elementary. And Dr. Bakshi, I agree with you. There's no way that you could catch me teaching preschool or kindergarten. I'm cool on that. But I did a project with my 7th and 8th graders, and we did it around gentrification, and we used transformations, right? So they wanted to know, like, they're like, is this social studies? And I'm like, absolutely, because everything's social about us. So we did a gentrification project where my kids went home and talked to their families about what Cincinnati used to be like. And so it forced them to have conversations with their families, for one. They came back and talked about what their families did in Cincinnati, came to the conclusion that folks have been pushed out of downtown Cincinnati and why, and said, what are we going to do about it? These are 13 and 14-year-old entitled children, okay? And they wanted to know what they were going to do about it. And I said, I don't know, what are we going to do? And they were like, well, where's people going to live? I said, well, you have the power to build it. So what are we going to do? And so they designed these high-rise apartments, and all I did was put some parameters around it. Oh, you got to use your transformation. So you got to use your translation, your reflection, your rotation, your dilation. And I want you to research, what's affordable mean? So what does it mean to be affordable? Who is your target market? All of those things. So they learned so many things in that. And I was using, I think at that time it was Engage New York or Open Up Math or something. And it wasn't expected to be super scripted at that time because we hadn't adopted anything. But now we're using iReady, which I think is a great program, but it's not culturally responsive, reflective, or sustaining in any way, shape, or form. So I tell my teachers, I'm like, please don't use anything with fidelity. Use it with integrity. So use the pieces that kids need to learn in order to be able to do math at the current level and at the next level and moving on. But if it doesn't feel right to you, it probably ain't gonna be right to them. So I always tell them that. But AI is scary to me. I think that we need to I know people say embrace technology and this and that, but I think we need a pause because our kids are suffering from mental health issues, from behavioral issues that we need to support, and kind of just pause for a minute and love on them a little bit more and help them understand what it means to be a good user of technology, not just because it's there, but use it in a way that is ethically sound. Or we're going to see, like I said, a bunch of robots.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so much to there's so much going on, right?
Yes.
When it comes to AI, I saw down here on the Beltline, somebody had the robot just running around on the field. Like you know what I'm saying? It looked like it
They
was a video.
deliver your food now. Like you can get a
Yeah.
robot to like walk and deliver your, it's crazy to me.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm trying not to sound like an old lady, but I'd be like, whoa.
Yeah, yeah, I feel you know, and people, you know, there's different ways to respond. I'm glad that you had your students do that project. I saw a video. Somebody, they have those delivery robots now with on the 4 wheels, and somebody put a brick in the front and a brick in the back, so the delivery couldn't move. Right? I was, you know, I don't know if that was a responsible decision or make it or not. You know, maybe a law or maybe they don't. The laws haven't caught up yet, but yeah, you know, it was you know, people there's definitely a lot of emotional factors that play a role when it comes to how it affects the communities that our students live in.
Yeah.
And if we don't provide those opportunities for them to innovate, then they may get left behind. But then we also gotta figure out ways to keep them thinking critically, right? So, Dr. Bakshi, I'm gonna throw that question to you as well. What impact will AI have on the future of education and STEM? what role might SEL play in that?
Yeah, I touch upon this a little bit in the book where a company was so proud of the fact that they have found an AI-based software that can replace teachers.
Mm,
And I don't know if they were expecting everyone to just rejoice, like, yay, now we have this software that can teach our kids. And that to me says, wow, you're completely removing the 100% humanity, the human side of our profession. And so I think AI is replacing the parts that I never really liked about education, the scripted curriculum, the being a curriculum coming only from California and Texas and mass produced and applied to everyone. It's like, oh, well, now AI can do that. Or, the rude doctors that just want to read off a script and not really get to know the patient. I feel like AI is replacing all of that. So maybe it's the people that, don't want to have that humanistic approach and side to their job that they should be worried because, yes, AI can replace you. But it's just like what Dr. Watson said. We have a call to our students with the pressing mental health issues. People are looking to AI for friendship and relationships, and this is where we can really come in to one, just like what you mentioned about ensuring that our students are still inventors and innovators and creators, that they have access to AI and knowledge, everything as well about the environmental impact, the approach to how which communities are getting affected, and how we're creating the problems that we need to create the solutions for to the problems that we've just created. So I think this is where our students can really be solutionaries. And another thing that I want to add is that we can program AI to mitigate for algorithmic bias and, institutional racism. We need more programmers and more diverse programmers to make sure that we're able to train the data well to be able to support all of our teachers and students.
yes, yes. Yeah, thank you for that breakdown. And you all dropped so many gems, and I see the chat is being activated, right? So before I pass the mic back to Jamila, what do you all hope everyone leaves this discussion thinking about? And also, yeah, and Jamila also wrote, drop your questions in the chat. Dr. Watson and Dr. Bakshi, what do you hope everyone leaves this discussion thinking about?
I just want to get to a place where folks believe our kids can. And like Dr. Bakshi said, forget about the prerequisites. Kids are ready for whatever we get them ready for. So I don't care. My son, he skipped math 7 and 8. He did not take math in 7th and 8th grade. He took algebra 1. He went from 6th grade to algebra 1. And did he struggle? It was the first time in his life he had to work really hard, but he made it and he had an A. Like he has a 4.6 something
Oh,
GPA.
I
So kids are
know
going to
that
get
high.
ready for what for. Okay.
Yeah, wow, 4.6.
He takes college
This is out of
courses like a
four.
little
This is out of four, right? We gotta clarify. This is 4.6 out of four.
out of, well, the standard is 4, yeah, but technically it's out of 5 because if you take college credit plus
Yeah,
courses, they're worth more. So
yeah. It's still exceptional.
he's a little baby genius.
Yeah. I mean, what? I mean, to no surprise, right? Look who his mom is,
Much smarter than me.
as he should be, right? I'm on my
That's
daughter. I'm like, I'm already getting nervous. She's 8.
I made the upgrade. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? He's
my
the
heels.
upgrade.
Yeah. And Dr. Bakshi, how about you?
I just love I want to echo what was already said. I love the title of this presentation, that SEL needs to be woven into the core content. This isn't something for the school counselors. This isn't something for the SEL coach or, the one MTSS coach. This is an all hands on deck. Like, we all need to know what's going on with our students, what's going on with our babies, how we can support them, and what we can do. So I really hope that in this conversation, the takeaway is that we're all SEL teachers. We're all in, SEL support to be able to support each and every one of our students, regardless. I see this a lot, especially with physics teachers and chemistry teachers. Like, oh, well, we can talk about culture and humanities. It's like, no, like, we don't, as people, we don't hang our culture at the door. Like, that's our entire identity. So I really hope that that's the takeaway, is that we're all kind of all hands on deck in this effort for social and emotional learning.
Yes. Yeah. Thank y'all all for breaking that down. So Jamila, I'm gonna pass the mic back to you.
So many jewels were dropped.
Yeah.
I'm dropping jewels in the chat. The chat is chiming in terms of things that they've heard, and I'm just so grateful. You know what? I had to think about just my mathematic and my STEM journey. And when I became an assistant principal of a school that was a project-based learning school, so shout out to EL schools. I saw math and STEM through a totally different lens. I saw students excited about math and science and asking critical thinking questions and tying it back to their communities. So I really do want to advocate for project-based learning. Like, I'm looking at my bamboo earrings and I see Dr. Watson's bamboo and I see Dr. Bakshi's nose ring that's representing the human connection around wealth and fertility. And I'm like, oh, that's a lesson right there. Like, we could break down the properties of gold in our earrings. We could tie it back to like looking at the multiple, like 100 of uses for the bamboo plants. So that's a sustainability lesson, all while listening to Express Yourself by Salt and Pepper, right? Like, like, I think it's so important for us to kind of just awaken the geniuses in our babies by connecting STEM and connecting their genius back to things that they can relate to and their everyday lived and shared experiences. So any other questions for our panelists? All right. If not, I just want to thank you all for coming tonight. So inspired, and social emotional learning is again, it's a part of who we are. It shows up in every aspect of our daily lives, and it should be fully integrated into all content areas. So tap into your young people's humanity. I love that quote. Don't do this work with fidelity, do it with integrity. And let's just make sure that we continue to lift this up and keep doing it for the culture. For those of you that may be new to We Do It for the Culture, we are a culturally responsive social emotional learning curriculum that's rooted in hip hop culture, storytelling, and current events for grades 6 through 12. And we really want to thank you for being in community with us this evening.
Thank y'all.
For the culture, them for real, math for real.
Yes.
Yes, thank y'all for real, Dr. Bakshi and Dr. Watson. And we are
Anytime.
we
Thank
are
you.
part of the same community,
Yes.
family, and we're gonna keep on building with each other and holding each other down through this journey.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Thank you. It's an honor.
Yes. Thank y'all. See ya.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.